on this rap-ish. I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list. Hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own. Tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues. Guess if you ain't at the table, you on the menu. And I'm that spitter, baby. They don't want you to see, but everybody's south of Capitol Hill's rocking with me. Boys smoke the trays and plan to getting their life together. I'm comfortable with my role, so I'm like, whatever. Me? I ain't got a job, but I work hard. And you don't work hard, but you got a job. The irony is I'm judged while you feel the applause. I'm slept on, that's why I had to set this alarm. My dudes is armed, I'm armed with this arm charm. Body banging like she got that cream from Barry Bonds. Yeah.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
X-ray season is here, a real hitter with a mic, I'm everything that they fear. With that hood ain't the same, I was all on their ass, I'm level-headed. So yo, my dudes love when I spaz, and I'm so over Seattle's passive-aggressive attitude. They don't call you back, what they really saying is F you. While I'm from the same place, I move at a different pace. I prefer if you just said it to my face, damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Average dudes with they average spit, writing average rhymes, knocking average chicks. The closer I get, I can feel the people starting to shift. I'm loyal to a fault, and everybody can't come with. Rap's a rich man's game, I'm only playing with change. They bang models and singers, I'm knocking my own flame, I'm different. The crowd, I move with the chosen few. Black thoughts, I could be the front man for the roots. No diamonds and gold, I'm on my sticks and stones. If we can see your panty line, you should have on a thong. My team is strong, through this fire we forged a bond. And they already know what it is when I get on. To the hearse, party like it's December 31st. When I'm on my deathbed, I probably cracking my nurse. You ain't got the bars to compete. I'm a verbal athlete, deflating these boys so they say that I cheat. Damn, I did it.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us.
Yeah. I should probably start by apologizing for the long wait, man. You know, I know I be tripping. But I'm not just a rapper, I'm an artist. And, you know, my creative process is a little bit different than most. Nonetheless, I want to welcome everybody out to the Dre's Experience. I got TCF in the building. My whole camp's here with me. I got the band in here laying this cool-ass vibe. And I'm Seattle's own. Let's get into it.
Welcome everybody to the Morning Update Show. Happy Monday to all of you out there. So thrilled to have you with us and to start our week out with you. Hope you guys are enjoying your Monday so far. Special shout out to all the folks out there who are taking a great time for themselves. I gotta say, with my guy Big O, that's what we try to do over here. What's up, Big O?
Good morning, Trey Holiday.
Hey, Grand Rising, my friend.
How was your weekend?
Hey, it was great. How about you?
Yeah, it was good. You know, it was a week. Unfortunately, man, it's always something. So stayed real busy this weekend. Didn't really. Basically, was just right here. But hey, it's Monday. There's lots of stuff going on. Lots of news to get into. We'll dive into it here in a second. But good morning. I want to welcome everybody to the Morning Update Show and remind you that right now is the perfect time for you to tag and share the stream. Go ahead and tag and share the stream with people you feel would appreciate culturally relevant news and information emanating from right here in the Emerald City. Want to give a big shout out to our partners over at the South Seattle Emerald and KBCS 91.3 over at Bellevue College. Also, want to remind everybody you can listen to the Morning Update Show anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast. We've got SoundCloud, probably going over there in the links, but you can remember that you can go to Google, you can go to Spotify, iTunes, anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast. Just search Converge Media Network. Whoa, what happened there? There it is. Well, better late than never. It's okay. You see, Mr. Director, when we've moved on, we've moved on. So there's no need to keep up. All right. So next up is the point in the show where I always like to remind everybody that the COVID-19 vaccine is readily available here in King County. It's a lot of COVID news coming around, man. They're talking about One of them getting ready to possibly approve the vaccine for 5-year-olds to 11-year-olds. And so they're in discussion about that. Of course, last week was a lot of big announcements right here in King County, where if by October 25th, if you're not vaccinated, man, you're not going to be able to go a lot of places.
Yeah, it's getting restrictive out there, and I mean, I don't think that we're shocked by it, but it's interesting to see this roll out, to be honest, because you're right. I mean, there's certain measures that, folks are like, hey, we need to put certain things in place if we're really trying to stop the spread of COVID-19. It is still spreading, and with these new variants and everything else, honestly, the truth of the matter is that it feels like everybody's trying to play catch up to the virus in it of itself and figure out a way to make sure people are staying safe.
All right. Well, one thing for sure is that if you want to get vaccinated here in King County, you just click that link there that's in the comments. You can find a place that's close to you, and they can go ahead and get the vaccination. In some cases, come to your house.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
All good right there. All right, moving along. Oh, drop this in here real quick. Quote of the day, Dick Gregory. They gave me the key to the city, and then they changed all the locks. Now, somehow I knew you were going to chuckle on this one, Trey.
Oh, man, you got to, give it up for Dick Gregory, man. He was somebody, he just kept it real for all of us, to be honest. No holds bar in the way that he addressed a lot of the discrimination, racism, this system in general. So many amazing speeches of his. And this is a great quote from him, because the truth of the matter is when we talk about Black community in particular, that's something that is felt amongst many of us. So, when we think about freedom in and of itself, what does that actually mean? And here he is, being very much in his own character, his own right, always wanted to keep it real, man. He's not playing no games with it.
No games to be played. All right, we'll jump into the headlines here. Let me go. Wow, yeah, this was big one this morning. I tweeted out about it. I've been trying to get some feedback from the Twitter sphere. Yeah, hey, look, I was tweeting about Seattle drivers in the rain over the weekend and went viral. I got to remember to put that in tomorrow's show. Let's see here. This is from Gene Ball over at the Seattle Times, the FYI guy. 60,000 Seattle area renters are behind on rent as eviction moratorium nears expiration. And so, according to Gene Ball over at the Seattle Times, an estimated 60,000 Seattle area renters ages 18 and older said their household was behind on rent. In a most recent release of Census Bureau's ongoing household pulse survey program, the survey was conducted August 18th through the 30th. Even more troubling, of those 60,000 renters, most owe multiple months worth of payments to their landlord. Only about 13,000 were just 1 month behind, according to the data.
Yeah, this is something that we have definitely been following, as these moratoriums have been kind of on a roller coaster ride. I mean, when the end of June was coming, folks were already starting to do rallies and try to educate renters on their rights when we thought that the moratorium would be lifted then. And now we're dealing with a new wave of that same energy, where folks are saying, oh my goodness, we have a lot of renters, specifically in the city of Seattle, but really throughout the world, to be honest. And when we think about just our nation, there's so many people who have been impacted by COVID-19 financially. This is one of those high impacts. And I think there's been a lot of discussion around how the federal government is going to be looking at this, because it's not just something that's dealt with by certain states. It's every state that is dealing with this, because a lot of people lost income, lost jobs due to COVID. And so this is going to be interesting, because I've been saying it from day one. There needs to be something that really is an umbrella for all renters at the end of the day. It shouldn't be on specific governors of any state. I think that it's something that is very much felt across our country. And so in that regard, it actually bolds an opportunity for the federal government to come in and say, this is how we're going to deal with this, and this is how we're going to protect renters. This is going to be interesting, because there's not enough sheriffs out there to really evict all 60,000 of those people. When I think about the city of Seattle, we talk about capacity in terms of where they already are with policing and everything like that. It takes a whole system in order for those evictions to happen. So this is going to be really interesting. And shout out to everybody out there who's been making a way out of no way, because it's been tough on a lot of families.
Right. And I think there's a few different things here. Is that, that's believable. First of all, 60,000. I know a lot of people who are behind on their rent. Some just, they got the money, they never stop working. They're just like, nah, I'm not gonna pay, I'm gonna stack this up and I'm gonna do something. Some, they've been put out of work and they can't pay their rent. And so it's kind of a broad spectrum there. And then we also, you got lots, especially small mom and pop, you know, who property owners, who own property, who haven't gotten rent in a long time. I think a lot of times when we talk about rent and rent being paid, that is true. We should look on the renter side. There's a lot of renters in this city. And there's a lot of, you know, a lot of times it's like, oh, the big corporations or the big, you know, property owners or the big developers. There's a lot of people that we know, even in our community, who are homeowners, who are renting their home and that's their income, and they haven't gotten their rent in a long time. Man, it's a lot going into it. I doubt, with all the programs going on that have been out there for a while now. We talked about King County, the prosecutor's office, months ago came with a program where you can kind of work with your landlord. They got somebody that can mediate with you, that can help you put a payment plan together. All of those services are free. It's a lot of different rent programs that are out there. And with the rent moratoriums coming up to an end, the best advice that we can give is like, man, if you haven't hopped on one of these programs, if you're unable to pay your rent, and what we'll do tomorrow is we'll bring some resources. We'll put a resource package together. If you haven't paid your rent and you're behind on your rent and you haven't been in contact with your landlord, get in contact with your landlord, see what programs might be available out there, and see how, you know, you can get caught up, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so key, because that's really why we started the Morning Update Show. We talk about it all the time, but you know, we understood that there was going to be some heavy impacts felt by all of folks all over every community, really, that it was going to be hitting a lot of people. And we wanted to be sure that resources were understood in our community. And so I love that we're going to be able to showcase a resource package, because you are right. I think one of the things that I have heard out there is that it's been tough getting response from some of these programs. I think a lot of them are dealing with a flood of intake. And so, you know, they're also at maybe lower capacity too, where a lot of these agencies have reduced their employee base because of COVID as well. So when you're talking about everybody making adjustments, it's going to hit all of the factors and all of the levels of this. So yeah, it would be great to be able to provide that information to you all, because we want you guys to be educated and informed so that you guys can protect yourself as much as possible.
Yeah, this is, I mean, this is something we saw coming. We've been talking about for a long time. They talked about a potential eviction tsunami. I can say that King County, I really see them trying to figure things out. I don't think the sheriff wants to actually be out there like that. And once you mentioned before, they don't have the manpower. We see other parts of America at the height of the pandemic. Down there in Houston, Constable was there. They was putting people out on the street. You know, we've always been more of a compassionate city and a compassionate county, and we'll see how that plays into that as the moratorium comes to an end. Moving on here, speaking about affordable housing. Seattle's push for more affordable housing, permanent homes for more individuals experiencing homelessness. This is from Ari Cetron on Capitol Hill Seattle blog. And basically, what we're talking about here is the mayor. I listened in a bit of the press conference. The mayor was up there at 420 East Boylston Street and announced a $50 million, and this money keeps coming, $50 million that the city, for 3 buildings to open this year, a total of 165 units. One of the buildings is in partnership with Youth Care, and it will house young adults, and they're partnering with Lehigh, and a lot of the tenants that are going to go into these 3 new buildings are coming from tiny house villages over into these buildings. And some of the money here is city money. You know, these buildings go. It's a lot of other money that goes in there. But this article, and let me go ahead and I'll put that link there. This article is interesting in Capitol Hill Seattle blog, because it talks about how a lot of the MHA stuff, it was supposed to encourage developers to put more affordable units on their property. But what ended up happening is they just pay the fee. And so in paying the fee, I think there's 224 units that qualify for, you know, in the MHA program, and to put actual units in the building, and only a handful did. But the flip side of that is now they've collected some funds that they're able to invest. And they have the Emily Alvarado, the director of housing. I'm going to see if I can talk to her today for tomorrow's show. Talked about this plan that they launched in June for like rapid acquisition of properties. And so that's kind of what the city is doing right now, is rapid acquisition on some properties to be able to have, now this is permanent. This is like you go from a tiny house village to now this is your apartment. This is where you live. So permanent housing. And like I said, $50 million announcement today, 3 buildings coming online this year, 165 total units.
Yeah, this is a really intriguing story because it has so much embed in it. And when we talk about creating solutions around our houseless issue here in the city of Seattle, it is vast, and it's going to take a lot in order for us to be able to create the amount of housing that is actually fitting the demand for it. You know, we talk about this all the time. There's a lot of people that flood to the city of Seattle for the resources that are not technically residents of the city, but the unhoused also come here because there are resources here. Now, the flip side of all of this is when I hear that there's 224 projects that would have qualified for MHA, and yet only a handful of them said, yeah, we're going to build a few of those units into our building. That is something that is exactly why there is a need for community ownership of land and of housing, and to move and push it forward, because to understand the social equity and capital that is needed to build these housing facilities that are going to be geared by people's experiences is very key. But the real thing here for me is that each one of those projects only really needed to provide either between 2% and 11% of MHA units in their project. And so to hear that now we have over 200 that said, no, we're going to just pay this fee, that really speaks to the kind of development that we are seeing here in the city of Seattle. And that is, again, one of the major drivers for gentrification, because they're not coming in to be supportive of people that have made this city home for so many years and for decades, or families or generations. They're not doing that. And that is exactly why we need so many other housing units that are going to say, no, we're going to be explicit about ensuring that displaced residents are able to come back into their city, come back to their neighborhood or community. We're doing it intentionally. And so, you know what? Yes, it's great that there's this fee, and I'm glad that the Office of Housing is able to utilize the fees that have been paid by for-profit developers to now build something that is going to be intentional to house our houseless population. And also the wraparound of saying we're going to be taking people from tiny villages into permanent housing is a beautiful story all around. So you're right. Oh, it's a mixed bag here on this one.
Right. And so a few things is that, yeah, 224 developments that qualified within this MHA rule. Only 5 decided to build units on site. Now, of that, there's a certain percentage where you would expect, and this is according to the article here and Capitol Hill Seattle blog. It's like if somebody buys a parcel of land and they put 2 or 3 townhomes on it, you know, for them, that kind of doesn't necessarily make sense. But you have some buildings that are going up, you know, 300 units, 400 units, 500 units. They're like, nah, we're not going to put 50 affordable housing units in this building. We're going to go ahead and pay the fee, right? And that's basically what we see happening here. But this is a really good article. And I encourage people, I put the link there in the comments for people to check it out, because it kind of gives you some insight onto how MHA is kind of playing out. And some of these things, it takes some years to see the end result. And we see the end result here is that developers are not building units with affordable housing in it. And at the same time, they're gobbling up all the prime property. And one of the things that Director Alvarado talked about today, this morning up there on Capitol Hill, is that's a prime property. The 420 East Boylston is a prime property that's there. And one other thing that was mentioned in the press conference this morning is that they're going to be providing wraparound services. People, I guess one of the things that people say is, well, tiny house villages, people go there and then they don't want to leave. And they're saying it's because people are finding a sense of community in the tiny house villages, right? And so then you leave, you go somewhere else, and it's something new. They're saying that by basically filtering people in from tiny house villages to some of these properties here, that village feeling amongst residents maintains, and that there's also going to be wraparound services that are going to be offered there in these buildings.
You know, that's so important. And I think we can definitely learn lessons from other projects in the past that without wraparound services, you find yourself, even though you have a bunch of residents and you have affordable housing units, unfortunately, without the wraparound services, you realize that there's a lot of gaps. And there needs to be things that are going to fill those gaps and fill those voids. And wraparound services do that. So I'm really happy to hear this, because the best we can do when it comes to our housing crisis here in the city and in our state is that we can learn from the lessons of other development projects. We can learn from how these kinds of strategies and approaches play out over time, so that when we are building the next set of development projects that are going to really be targeting this issue, that they understand a lot of those lessons and they're building them into their development. So great work for everybody who's involved in this.
Yeah, no doubt. And we see, I mean, this is good. People are having a good conversation there in the comments. The Director Alvarado's comment around being prime property is really important as well, because when you look at this fund and the money that's going to the fund and be able to purchase more properties, a lot of people who are going to be moving into that housing, you got to think that they might not have a car. So if you're building these new units from the MHA fund and you're not building them in inclusive neighborhoods. Capitol Hill is a very inclusive neighborhood. I mean, you've got the light rail, you've got the buses, you've got grocery stores within blocks, you got, a bunch of hospitals within blocks and everything else. And, the city, the city, what they said today is they announced 3, but they've been in talks with a bunch of more buildings, because they said after today, they knew that the price was going to go up from all the developers. So, the word is that the city and the county is going to be unveiling more of these permanent housing, affordable permanent housing buildings in the coming weeks. And so we'll definitely be following that. We got something right here. This is coming over from the Crosscut from David Croman. King County moves towards repealing bicycle helmet law. And now we talked about this before, Trey Holiday, a few times on the Morning Update show. And we even had Edwin Lindo in here from North Star Cycling Club. And according to this article here, Black people are cited. Well, first of all, here's the first thing I want to say is this: nobody, not the county, not in people over there, or like North Star Cycling Club, no one is saying that you shouldn't ride without a helmet. Everybody is saying like, hey man, you got a helmet, you need to wear it. And no one is doubting the safety of wearing a helmet on a bicycle. But the problem is with this law, they said that Black people are cited 4 times higher than white people. And oftentimes the helmet law is used as a pretext by police to stop people of color for other things. And just read a bit of this here. It says, responding to concerns about inequitable enforcement of King County's bicycle helmet requirement, members of the county's Board of Health are seriously considering rolling back the decades-old law with a vote expected early next month. Several board members were explicit during a meeting Thursday in their desire to strike the law from the books, and none raised any clear opposition. At the core of their reasoning was the law's disproportionate use against people of color and those experiencing homelessness, as well as questions about whether it was achieving its stated goal.
Yeah, I think that that's really the end result here. Is it really achieving its goal? And ultimately, I love how you emphasize that nobody is saying you shouldn't wear a helmet, but we do, again, have to learn the lessons. Like if we look at the data and we see that there's a disparity here, because now more people of color, Black folks, Indigenous, people that are non-white are the ones that are getting stopped at a higher rate, are the ones that are getting citations at higher rates. What is it that we can do to really learn from this lesson? And I think ultimately there's so many great things and great people that have been behind this effort. I mean, we are giving a shout out to Edward Lindo, and there's other cycling groups that really are multi-ethnic groups that are like, yeah, look, we understand these because we are bike riders. And so we're the ones that are experiencing these disparities. We also understand too that a lot of the citation funding understanding, we always ask like, okay, people are like, well, where is that going? There was a real question about how in the north end, in certain areas that are more predominantly white, you have access to greater bike trails and bike lanes than you do in some of the areas that have more people of color living there. So there's a lot of question and discourse happening around this helmet law. Shout out to everybody who's really been pushing forward to make this a real effort here, because there's a lot of people that were like, this isn't right. It's not going in the right ways. And so I love how it says there in the article, is it really meeting its intended goal?
Right. And I think another thing for people to think about as well is that the cost of citing people and everything else, we very well might be able to hand out helmets. I'm not, me, I'm pretty much like, I'm on government and everything else. I like to keep government over there and the people over here. But some things kind of might make sense. It might make sense to be like, oh, you know what? Here's a citizen in need. And as opposed to citing them and all the paperwork, once something to cite goes to this office, that office, somebody has to cite, you may mail something out, there's a summons, they might, depending upon the level of it, they might have, public defense or this or that or whatever. That cost far exceeds the cost of a helmet.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're so right about it. And that's one of the things where it's like, when you think about, people actually having to go to court, and you're thinking about a judge and the lawyers and everybody that's involved in these kinds of cases, there's a lot of money being spent that is unnecessary. So again, how do we start to utilize some other measures to do something different? And I love what you said there, that a lot of the money that's being spent can just be spent to just dish out helmets, man. Make them free, you know what I mean? And ultimately, if it's going to be a part of our laws and making sure that we're keeping people safe, it's just like we don't pay extra to have seatbelts in our cars, right? So they should come with every bike sale, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, that's another option as well. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where this goes. We've been seeing community and different groups and apply pressure around this issue, and it looks like it's probably going to get repealed there. And again, no one, including me, as someone who got smacked, you know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, wear a helmet. If you can get a helmet, wear a helmet. No one is against you guys not wearing a helmet out there. We got something right here. This is actually from Paul Kiefer via Publicola, but on the South Seattle Emerald. Court approves city attorney's motion to clear outstanding prostitution warrants. All right. So it says right here, on the morning of Thursday, September 18th, a Seattle Municipal Court judge approved a motion by Seattle City Attorney Pete Holmes to quash all outstanding warrants for misdemeanor prostitution, including some issued well over a decade ago. And basically, some of these go back between 2001 and 2019. And in 2019, they basically says the city's attorney's office hasn't prosecuted anyone for selling sex since 2019. That's at the same time the Seattle Police Department ramped up arrests and citing operations targeting both sex workers and buyers in response to public pressure driven by the increase in the presence of sex workers along Aurora Avenue North. And a lot of people are saying that uptick of prostitutes being back out there on the streets, or the numbers increasing, is because the federal shutdown of Backpage and Backpage website. It was like, you go and make your transactions, but people aren't on the streets. And so, yeah, it looks like what's going to happen is outstanding prostitution warrants, they're going to get quashed by the city attorney. And yeah, they haven't, like I said, they said they haven't filed a new charge since 2019. It seemed like there was a direct correlation between people not being able to basically transact on the internet and Backpage and other websites, and then an increase of prostitution on the actual street level.
Well, we talk about, I mean, when you think about that, is what they say is the oldest profession of all time, right? And so the truth of the matter is that, for it to be criminalized in the ways that it has, I got to give another shout out to sex workers and advocates for sex workers who have been really out there on the front lines, being sure that these kinds of conditions are understood by people who don't delve into that world. So from an outside perspective, you may think, oh yeah, it's illegal, shouldn't be doing it. But at the end of the day, there's people that really make a living off of it. How can it be something that is more accepted maybe, and versus it being criminalized in the ways that it has? I've been able to really hear some discussions on this, that have really allowed me to get educated as somebody who is not involved in it at all or has no understanding, to hear from advocates and people that are experiencing not just sex workers, but even strippers, dancers. I mean, it's a full industry where you're like, look, there's ways that there can be other things that are built into the strategy of protecting these folks out there, that are males or females, but ultimately, or in between, right? Intersex, trans, whatever. But I think that this is something that, America as a country has a lot to learn about, because it's been so criminalized. And honestly, the stigma around sex work has really been built into the narrative that is just so inherently bad. It's wrong. It's this, it's that. But I really have been educated myself, and I encourage people to, read some materials, get educated on this, speak to some of these advocates that are out there that really understand the nuances of this kind of work. I'm glad to hear this, because I think the more that we can do in terms of really identifying that human nature of every person and of every industry, that is a part of this. And so the fact that they're going to be repealing these warrants, that's actually a step in the right direction, if you ask me.
Yeah, Lloyd Gregory said in the comments here, Seattle's oldest industry, my friend. I'll up that and say that's probably the world's oldest. And the sex worker advocacy here in the city of Seattle is one of the highest, operating advocacy groups or coalition of groups that you find in America. And so city attorney is going to squash these warrants. Some of them going back all the way to 2001. Man, on some bad news here, Chef Fernandez, man, the feed company, Panda.
Oh.
Yeah, man. So,
Francis.
Yeah, right. So the feed co right there on 23rd and Union, and we actually did a segment there and everything back last September. We opened a location out in Green Lake, right? And here's a photo of the location here right before they opened. And so, man, they were burglarized Friday night, early Saturday morning, and it was some like real deal professionals. And I mean, on the tape, you see here on the left, like, they were able to strip out the lock. They cut the alarms. And then on the picture there on the right, for people there, they used a saw. That's they cut open the safe. You see how big this safe is right here. They cut the safe open. And, it's all bad. Like, they just had their grand opening out there in Northgate. At Green Lake, and very excited about it and everything else. And this occurred, and I talked to the chef over the weekend, trying to give some words of encouragement and everything else. And yeah, we can't forget, like, this stuff happens, man, in our city. This was, and this looked like some professors. I just put their Instagram into the comments. This looked like it was definitely professionals. It wasn't like, oh, somebody kicked in a window and rummaged around or whatever. I mean, when you come in there and you can cut through a safe and you can do all of that, this is a professional, like, robbery.
This is really, this is disheartening, because, shout out to Francis, the whole team over there, man. You have been such a stark supporter of the Morning Update show, and just really of community. Like, you've been doing so many great things, and always been a great partner in some of the things and work that I've been able to do out here in community. But this is really intriguing, because honestly, if you're thinking about this from even a robber's perspective, what is in a safe if you just open a location? Do you have a history of a robust business in this location? Not quite. So this feels like it is got more layers to this story, because for anybody to target this business right after their grand opening to say, hey, we're going to come up in here, we're going to take money out of their safe, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I just wonder what was the whole purpose behind it, not just the robbery, but when you don't have, like, hey, we've seen lines around the corner of this business business. We know this business is super thriving in this area. We know that they probably got stacks of cash in their safe. I mean, what else is the driver? So that's really interesting. But also, too, I experienced them taking some of the products, obviously, from this location into the Central District location this weekend. There were some cars lined up right there at Feedco on 24th and Union.
Yeah, no, so Panda's in the comments here. He's saying they hadn't even opened yet.
See?
Hadn't even opened yet. It's crazy. They got some video up there, like on their Instagram page and everything else. But these guys have been big supporters of Converge, and just wanted to bring that to attention to our viewers. I mean, and general public as well. And a lot of times, people disregard issues of crime in our city unless they're impacted or they know somebody who's impacted. So, especially our viewers in the Central District and Capitol Hill, a lot of them have either been there to FECO or they're aware of it, and this is what's occurred there. And so we've put the Instagram link in the comments there, and hopefully Chef, if he's wanting community to do anything or respond, put a post there so people can follow up with it.
Yeah, and I'll just say this too. I mean, there is the tip line. If anybody has any information about this robbery that occurred there at Feedco, please make sure you guys are hitting up that tip line. You can find the actual number online. They make it easy for you to be able to anonymously say what it is so that you don't feel targeted in any way yourself. But this is something where there may need to be more of us that are involved. If any of you know anything, I'll just say that right now. Please make sure you guys are hitting up the tip line. What else?
No, these comments just get even worse. He said today was supposed to be our grand opening. Damn, Chef. Man, I'm real sorry to hear about that. I'll tell you this though, Chef. Anything we can do when you guys get this grand opening up and ready out there in Green Lake, man, you let us know. And I promise you, me and Trey Holiday, and as big as Jake is, he'll be there. You know what I'm saying? We'll bring Salman and everybody else and come and be supportive. And you just let us know what we can do for you. We're going to take a quick break right now. When we come back, it's time for Support Black Business. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
Market Street Shoes, slinging kicks since 2006, with styles that support you and yours, getting the F outside or staying comfy when you just want to lounge indoors as well. But wait, Market Street Shoes is way more than just a shoe store. Gear up for your next outdoor adventure with apparel and accessories that'll have you looking good on the streets, the trail, or even in your own backyard. With locations in Ballard, Redmond, and online at marketstreetshoes.com, there's undoubtedly a style and size that'll fit your lifestyle.
Businesses are largely in COVID. Small businesses have been almost twice as likely to shutter.
Disproportionately so.
More than half of Black business owners
struggling to obtain federal paycheck protection.
COVID-19
on African Americans. Somehow we always find a way to rise.
To the blueprint builders, to the backbones of every block, to the late night legends and the pioneers of legacy, for the curators of the culture, for the family franchise, and for generations to follow. You might fall, but never fail. Keep rising, keep rising, keep rising. Apply today for a variety of business, marketing, and tech makeovers on us to help your rise.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. And if you know me, you know this is just rapidly becoming my favorite part of the show. It's time for Support Black Business, powered by No Excuses. All right, so today we're highlighting the Liink Project. This was real dope. Me and Salman, we went over there on Union yesterday, and we caught up with Stephanie Morales, from the Liink Project. And then, man, also caught up with Vivian from Seeds and Steez and Eva from In Her Threads, and we'll be having some segments on them as well. And so we actually caught up with 3 Black businesses all at the same place. But the Liink Project is pretty dope because they're giving space and opportunity to small business owners in our community.
The Liink Project is, during the week, it's a cooperative retail space and art gallery, and it features all Black-owned businesses and artists. And then on the evenings and weekends, it's an event space that has pop-up markets like you see here today, as well as classes, community meetings, private events, food pop-ups, all that kind of stuff. So today is the Liink Black Biz Market and Mixer. And so every month we feature about 6 or 7 Black-owned businesses here. Everything from plants, holistic goods, candles, clothing. We've got threads here as well. So yeah, just a place for us to all come together. You can actually put a face to the business that's available. So
I love the Liink Project. I love the Liink Project because it's a community of like-minded people. And I love the idea of Black people having ownership and having a place where we can show our products and feel comfortable and meet people and network. I think it's very important to have something like this.
The Liink Project is huge. It's super important just because it creates accessibility around the products that we as a community have. I don't think people realize and recognize just how much the Black community in Seattle cultivates. We've got, pillowcases, we've got plants, we've got art, we've got clothing. We have everything that you can think of in the Black community. And what Stephanie has done with the Liink Project has opened up a space for us to come and sell those things, opened up a space for people to come and buy those things. A lot of people want to give back and put their money back into the Black community, and this is an opportunity to do so at a time when that really matters.
I mean, we're all, working away at our own little things. And so it's important. I see it as cooperative economics and cross-marketing. And so when we come into a space together, my audience then gets to meet their audience, another business owner and vice versa. And so we sort of cross-pollinate in that way. And so I just think that in a collective effort, we're able to do so much more that way and tap into so many more audiences and that kind of thing and share resources as well. I was doing projects along the lines of, community and cooperative economics for many years. And space has always been the biggest challenge for me. Always having to go and ask for permission to use a space and having that kind of hesitancy. What are you doing? What kind of music are you playing? Who's all going to be there? And I just got tired of doing that. And so the Liink was a dream for a long time. And sometimes chaos creates opportunity. And that's kind of what happened. The pandemic, unfortunately, some businesses closed, including this one here. And that opened up a space for me to be able to come in and take advantage of that. We are the Liink Project on all social media and the linkproject.com, and that's the Liink with 2 I's.
Wow. Shout out to everybody who is a part of the Liink Project, and a special shout out to my girl, Stephanie Morales of AXSM Art. I love this story all around because talking to Stephanie, you understand that she's just driven, man. She's driven to make things happen and to be really a connector of so many people that are out on the ground doing things in their own silos. And I love to see that the Liink Project is already open. It's thriving. I love that you were able to catch up with other business owners that are utilizing this space so that you can hear from their perspective how the Liink Project is imparting on their business and on their lived experience. It's a great story all around. And I think one of the greatest things that I'm loving to see happen is Black businesses flourishing on Union once again. I mean, this is such a great story all around. And Stephanie was telling me about this from the beginning. I mean, there were so many ideas that even her and I were shooting back and forth about, well, how do we uplift what people are doing? There's so many amazing vendors, and yet there's not enough space. So shout out to Stephanie Morales and everyone who helped to make this possible right on Union, right there at the Liink Project. Love this story. Oh, it's a great one.
Yeah, no, good stuff for sure. And we got resources. If you click our link in bio on any page, then we've got different grants and things like that. If for Black business owners, it's a few grants that are up there, and we'll continue to update that. And that leads me probably to my second favorite part of the show right here. This is Black Business Relief. All right. So we've got a really, really firm and stern reminder that today is the last day to get your application in for the RUDS Rub, Raising Up Black Businesses. This is the last day for that to get the application in. I'm going to put this right here. There goes the link in the comments. These are grants, Trey Holiday, in the amount of $2,500, targeting small Black businesses, not only here in Seattle, but across the state of Washington and a good part of Oregon as well. Basically, Ezel's Famous Chicken's footprint. We've been talking about it now. We've done our part every single day while this grant was open. We've been telling people like, yo, sign up for it. And actually, you had a guest here last week, Tara Dubois, who actually signed up for the grant.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, shout out to Tara Dubois and the Complete Experience driving team over there. She said, look, you know, we applied for it. We knew that we were going to need additional help. And as a new business just starting out, it's important because when you talk about the life cycle of business, you realize that almost at any point in time, there can be great needs that come up as a business owner. When we talk about replacing HVAC, when we talk about, you know, putting a down payment on a new car or buying another used vehicle for their driving school, when you think about a new juicer for a juice bar, or, you know, upgrading your oven, you know, right, for a bakery. I mean, there's so many different ways that this $2,500 could be beneficial to small Black businesses out there. And I love that we've been able to uplift this every day because this is from our own community. The beautiful thing about it is, hey, when I was at Garfield High, I was working at Ezel's too. So for me, it's really a part of my childhood and just such a fabric of our community. Love that the Ezel's team saw this need and stepped up and didn't wait for anybody else. They said, we're going to do this. And I also love that DoorDash saw that this was a great opportunity for them to be engaged in a community initiative that's going to be beneficial to Black businesses. One of the things I want to say on this last day of RUDS Rub is not just a special I love you to Lewis over there, who is so integral in me understanding professionalism and being able to understand, you know, how to have customer service and bring my personality to bear on the front line at Ezel's, but also the fact that there are so many businesses that could benefit from this grant should encourage other businesses out there. If you are able to invest in your community the way that Ezel's is doing right here with RUDS Rub, you know, you have a prime example in this right here, in this initiative, in this entire approach. You guys actually have an opportunity because it's going to take so much more investment when we think about how businesses are not only hit by COVID, but just when we talk about invigorating a Black business core and Black economics in general. I'm always inspired by the roaring towns of the 20s that had Black everything. And so when we're getting to a whole new renaissance of that, I encourage other businesses to find a way to be giving back and be intentional about your investment. Shout out to everybody over there. And I hope you Black business owners are taking advantage.
Definitely. And want to remind everybody, you go to the link in bio, and there, and by tomorrow, we'll actually have a web page rolled out on the Converge platform as well. And you can get grant information, not only on the RUB, today's the last day, but also Comcast Rise and Back Black Business by American Express. So you can find all of that there, link in bio, and we'll have it on the website tomorrow. We're going to take a quick break right now. We want to go to a big national story that's occurring down there on the Texas border. You're watching the Morning Update Show. All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. And turning now to national headlines, and there's really a lot, but we just got one in here today. This story has been developing down there on the Texas border, where you've got over 10,000 Haitians that set up camp in Del Rio, Texas, right across the border there. The majority of them have been living in Latin America since the last earthquake years ago. And apparently they got the word. Some people are saying because with Afghanistani refugees coming into the country, they got the word like, oh, okay, let me go to the border. And so they amassed in thousands on the border. And what's happening right now is the Biden administration is expelling them, the ones that got over the border, and they're actually flying them, they're repatriating them back to Haiti. This is a clip right here from CBS this morning.
Mass deportations are underway for more than 12,000 migrants in South Texas. They have been living in a makeshift camp near the border of Del Rio. Most of them are Haitians who have traveled from South America several years ago. They came to the U.S. border recently after hearing rumors that they would be allowed to cross. Their arrival in Del Rio has put pressure on the Biden administration. Manuel Bojorquez is in Del Rio. Manuel, good morning.
Good morning. Thousands are waking up yet again, living under a bridge on the other side of this border fence, which you can see is actively being monitored by Border Patrol this morning. As you mentioned, the majority are from Haiti. They fled their country after that 2010 earthquake and resettled in Central and South America. Conditions have now brought them here to the U.S. border. They're hoping to stay in this country, hoping for a better life, but likely most will be sent back to Haiti. More than 300 Haitians arrived back in their home country Sunday, and more deportation flights are planned this week as the U.S. government tries to process the more than 12,000 migrants camped out near Del Rio, Texas. One migrant says he was in detention for 4 days in the U.S., 4 days without brushing his teeth, 4 days without a shower. With this section of the U.S.-Mexico border closed, many of the migrants tried to cross the Rio Grande over the weekend, but were confronted by Border Patrol agents on horseback. 36-year-old Haitian migrant Alex Rossier says if he is deported, he will die in Haiti because there's no security in the country. Valverde County Sheriff Joe Frank Martinez wants the federal government to do more.
It takes too long to process an asylum claim. You know, the system has been broke for 40, 50 years. It's used as a political football, you know, from one agenda to the next.
Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas says the U.S. government is working to move thousands of the migrants every day to processing centers.
We have sent a very clear message early on, in light of the fact that we are in the midst of a pandemic, that the border is not open and people should not take the perilous journey here.
In that interview, Secretary Mayorkas was asked whether there is a contradiction because the U.S. is allowing Afghan refugees to resettle in this country, but deporting Haitians in need. The secretary said those Afghan nationals have been screened and vetted and are being flown into the country, and in his view, that is different than simply showing up at the border. Gail?
All right, Manuel, thank you very much.
Wow. I mean, what a story here when we think about how, as a nation, we have been built on the backs of not just slave labor and people that came here without having the opportunity to say yes or no, but so many of Americans now are because they came from other places and they flooded into America. The ideas of this story being a national story is really true, but it also really hits home when we think about how we are caring for people globally. I mean, one of the things that we have done in this nation is we've spread our military might all over the world and tried to really share democracy with people. And ultimately, a lot of people see America as a real threshold and a place where, you know, they just want to be settled. They want to be able to be safe. They want to be able to raise their families. And it looks like all of those Haitians that are coming were doing the same thing. This is really interesting, because it is a tough position for the Biden administration. And ultimately, you know, if there's a way to expedite the process, as that brother said there in the interview there, the system has been broken for decades. And what is it that we can do to really fix the system so that, you know, trying to apply for asylum is not wrecked with all of the barriers that it has right now? Very intriguing.
Yeah. And so a few things is that, one, Biden, I've been following this up. Biden, as much as he talked, a lot of the policies and things that were in place with Trump, he's kept them in place or emboldened them. You know, I mean, he's just not loud like Trump. You know, so, I mean, there isn't necessarily on some of these things, there isn't necessarily a big difference in administration. Two, you know, Haiti has, I mean, where it's at, it's always kind of been rocked by earthquakes. We got places in America that are like that as well. But Haiti, a unique position. It was the second independent country in the Western Hemisphere, 1804. You know, when the Haitians, when Napoleon, the French, used to be the French over there, and man, they pushed the French out. And the Haitians pushing the French out made the French think that, man, if these Haitians can sit up here and push us out, because they had a big foothold in America. Long story short, it was like a precursor in the conversations that led to the Louisiana Purchase and the French selling a big portion of the United States, then French territory, to the United States. But a lot of things that people don't talk about as well is what Haiti is one of the few countries in the world where they were forced to pay reparations to the country that they defeated. And so what happened is they beat the French back in early 1800s, and the French locked them out of the international debt system. If you're forming a new country, you got to be able to sell debt. You got to be able to finance your country, and so to get loans and everything else. The French were the Haitians have been paying and paying. There's a lot of countries in Africa as well. You know, France is very wealthy off of things like this. But imagine that you've pushed people out of your country who came to occupy your country, and then you're forced to pay them reparations. And so Haiti has been chronically poor for a very long time based upon things that happened hundreds of years ago. And now speeding it up here to today, this issue right there, the Biden administration, they said that they're going to lift them right out, and they're going to fly them back to Haiti. We know was just undergone another earthquake and some turmoil there. But I wanted to continue. I've been following this story for a few days now, and I just wanted to share that with the audience as to what's going on down there at the border.
This is intriguing indeed, and I love that you actually mentioned so much of the foundation for how Haiti got itself into a position of, being a poor country. I mean, there's so many atrocities that really are not spoken about in the history books. They're not clear to learners right now, people that are in high school, college. A lot of these things are kind of hidden, and you have to understand how the money and the mechanisms of debt and money works, and the ways that it was wielded to still be about controlling power. And that's really what France was doing by saying, okay, fine, you guys defeated us, but now you guys have to pay us for that defeat, basically, is what ended up happening. And it is unfortunate. And I think that when we talk about righting the wrongs, not only of our country, but globally, this is one of those issues that needs so much more depth, though.
Yeah, it definitely does. We got a comment right here, Ilana Okran, and that so-called debt was based on the price tag the enslavers put on the people they stole and brought unwillingly to Haiti. Yeah, and so it's real easy to look at Haiti right now, but it's a poor country, it's this and that, but that's why history is important. Whether we like history or we dislike what happened, it's important that we know history and we know how we got to where we're at right now. Looks like we're at the top of the hour. I just wanted to bring this up real quick. No more breaks, we're good. October 1st, I'm looking forward to it. The Black Tones are going to be here. We're talking about the Pure Sounds concert series at Pier 62. On the 2nd, the Black Tones are there at the Pier. And then you've also got Earshot Jazz Festival. Then you got to have Tiffany Wilson and Lady A. So it's the 2nd, the 9th, and the 16th over at the Pier. We going?
Yeah, man, this is going to be exciting. One of the things that I have loved in my young adult life was the concerts down at the Pier. So I love that there's this new re-energized energy around that same mentality. We have a beautiful pier, and I was able to see India.Arie years ago as the sun was setting right there on the pier. Let me tell you, man, there's nothing like it. So I'm excited. I'm excited.
Look at you. I am not my hair, huh?
Yeah, I'm excited.
All right, good stuff. We've got about a minute left here. Any last words before we get out of here?
Oh, for me, last words. Clearly, as we talk about this story with Haiti, there's so many opportunities for us to not just be parts of solutions, but to really begin to bring history to the forefront of those solutions. Let's learn from history. Let's have a Sankofa method, understanding our past to know how to move forward. That's what's going to get us to the progress that I think so many of us out there want to see. So I encourage you guys to see yourself as a part of an amazing solution.
All right, good stuff. Programming note, we got another episode number 2 of Seattle Budget School with me and the wordy and nerdy Kevin Schofield. That's going to be at 7 o'clock tonight. We're going to air that. And tonight we're talking about the budget and the law. Last episode was like, what is the budget? Now it's the budget and the law. And after this episode, you're really going to understand why every time they come with a new tax, it goes to court. It's lots of stuff around that. Otherwise, man, you know what? It's Monday. Let's have the best week possible. And we'll go to the wide view song mine. Thank you. All right. On that note, Trey Holiday, I want to remind everybody, go forward in your purpose, go forward in your humanity. And until tomorrow at 11 a.m., peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on.